Hello and welcome back to the podcast. Today we're talking about 3D scanning technology, robots which have the potential to kill humans, artificial intelligence replacing jobs, and tech leaders like Elon Musk, Steve Wozniak, and hundreds, if not thousands of others calling for a 6-month pause on artificial intelligence. All in this episode. This is the Alfie Whattam podcast.
The Alfie Whattam podcast.
Let's have a chat about what's happening in the world of technology. We're going to start with the NBA, who have demoed a 3D scanning app. Let's play the clip. If you're listening on audio, now is a good time to turn on the video to see what's happening on the screen. Essentially, this new technology allows you to scan an individual, like this chap standing on the stage, from different directions, and then using this 3D technology, instantly, magically even, you can put that person into a game. So you can select a character, you see how it's changing colours on the individuals on the screen, and then if they pick that person, boom, click a button, and that will change the character to the person that was being scanned. So you can now be in the NBA without having to have any of the skills, which is perfect for me because I can't slam a basketball to save my life. There he is close up. There's the crowd. They're going crazy. They're going insane. Is it for the AI? Is it for the basketball? Or is it for both? There he is, celebrating, slam dunk, Kobe. It happens. That is incredible technology from a 3D, almost AR perspective, you could even say. But crazy to see where this is going and the potential that it could have in the future. Let's get your reactions to this when you see this clip. So Neil, when you see that, what do you think? What comes to mind?
I suppose, first of all, I'm trying to understand how it works. So it sort of reminds me of the, when you take a sort of panoramic photo, you sort of, how it works is it stitches different photos together.
Yes.
So that's how I would assume this would work in some way. You know, the guy who was recording, he was going around the
circle.
Sort of
yes.
In a circle, and he was basically taking a video. Imagine what it's doing is it's piecing together photos and obviously building, a kind of image or 3D image of the person. And then trying to understand, I suppose, how it then maps onto, I think you said it was Kobe, was it?
But no, I just saying Kobe because that's like the meme, right? You Kobe, you slam dunk. I'm not sure who the player was. It might be. I'm not a big basketball player, but yeah, you can select any person in theory and instantly put you in the game. And I believe this is an update to an app they have coming out very, very soon, which is going to be interesting to see. I suppose the fun that you can have with it in first, and then the potential use cases a little bit later on. What's your takes, Soumya, when you see that clip?
I think it's very cool because you don't get to play in those sort of tournaments and then with those players.
Yeah.
And it will be pretty cool if you can actually take your 3D avatars and then you can get into the game.
Yeah.
Then play with your friends or family.
Yes.
I think it's cool. It's fun.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know whether it's on live games that they can play and then whom you can share.
I don't know the answer to that. That's a very good question. If it's pre-recorded or live, but I presume it would be all. But I shouldn't assume that the expression assuming is making an ass out of you and me, right? So I probably shouldn't do that. But it won't just be basketball. You'll be able to play football. You'll be able to make yourself
anything,
Tiger Woods and everything else in between. Varun, when you see that clip, what's your reaction?
It's funny because when we all watch the clip and then you ask us our views, I feel like one of those sports pundits when we have to give a play-by-play commentary on what happened. Very cool. I mean, it's obviously one of those applications of 3D scanning that you hope would exist one day. And it's also like one of those where you see it and you're like, this could be expanded into so many different ways. As Soumya was saying about, you can control it as part of a video game.
Yes.
I think even with just sports commentary, it sort of brings an extra dimension to the viewing experience, which really makes it exciting. I think sports teams could even use it as well for when they're planning their tactics, when they're watching over how things happened, and then they in the last game, and then planning for future games. Because I'm quite certain they don't use very sophisticated technology to do that at the moment.
Sure. Yeah.
So things like that it just seems very exciting.
I can't wait until you can, like, in a fencing match, put Joe Biden versus Donald Trump and just watch that. That's going to be kind of fun to see that happen. Another thing that the app will allow you to do, which wasn't demonstrated in the demo, is change the background. So you can put the players on the moon or on Mars, or anywhere you like, really. Do you think that would make sports a little bit more entertaining, perhaps, if people aren't interested in watching the usual game? If instead you've got your family versus your friend's family and you're playing on Venus, do you think that might be a little bit more entertaining? What do you think, Soumya?
I think, it's up to individual perceptions, and I think it will really engaging. So you get involved, and then when you're playing against your friends or families or with other live players, and in a virtual location where you want to be.
Yeah.
So I think it adds to the fun element.
Yeah.
I mean,
you think you're for it? You think it's cool?
I think I'm for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm cool. It's cool. It's a feature which will enhance a new perception, and it will engage you more.
Yeah.
Into the game.
Absolutely. Well, what about from your side, Sunil? Do you would you prefer to see sports on a field, or do you think it'd be kind of cool to put players on a Fortnite map or something wild?
Yeah, as you're explaining, it did sound a lot like a sort of video game, right? So you mentioned Fortnite. I think it's very sort of interesting. Obviously, the players would still be on the field, but when you're watching it on TV or whatever, you could make them sort of feel like they're on the moon or something. And obviously, I think that would open it up to more viewers. You would get more people, I think, viewing it and stuff. I think it's a very, very interesting idea. I'd be keen to sort of see how it plays out.
Could open it to advertisers. If you could play on a huge giant Twix bar or
on top of Dream Factory, perhaps. Yeah.
Exactly. Varun, what's your take on the swapping out the backgrounds aspect? Do you see that as a good idea?
It sounds fun. I'm not sure if people who are into sport would probably like to see it played in a court.
I think so.
With all the normal sort of rules and boundaries, I suppose.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it doesn't make for a sort of a fair playing field, I suppose.
Sure.
But I think going deeper into sort of gamification and things, I think there's definitely some interesting things that can be explored over there. It sounds exciting. I just don't know. Whether it is something people would want to kind of watch
every single time, perhaps not, but maybe as a cool gimmick. I think one thing that will be cool is the gamification side of betting. Like, you can bet on yourself. If you put you as David Beckham and you're like, I'm gonna bet that I'm gonna crush it. I'm gonna you put some real money on there or some Bitcoin, and then boom, you're winning. It'll be fun to see where that goes. Okay, the next story kind of takes a dark turn, to be honest. So this is interesting development out of San Francisco. San Fran has just approved the use of killer police robots. So police in San Francisco can now use lethal robots on suspects in emergency situations. This decision comes after the mayor previously decided to defund the police budget by $120 million. So they're basically swapping police officers out there for robots. I will, for the sake of accuracy, even though it would get a better headline, announce that this policy has been cancelled. So they have completely pivoted on what originally was voted. But if we just look at it from the angle of the fact that this passed in the first place, what's your reaction to robot police officers? That's a weird sentence to say, isn't it? Sunil, what's your take?
I think, firstly, I'd be keen to understand a bit more about kind of what that was all about, because the idea of killer robots is, so it's firstly a bit generic, like, how exactly does that work? Like, do they, are they still being controlled by humans, or do they have like full autonomy? If they have full autonomy, that's a completely different discussion, right? That's like, can we trust them?
Yeah.
And I mean, I'd be very hesitant, and I expect most people would be, maybe not in San Fran, because obviously, very different place. But it's yeah, I'd want to know more before, sort of.
Yeah. Well, even if it wasn't GPT controlled, even if it was human controlled, you have human error and you have hacking. You could, if you hacked into the fleet of thousands of these and then sent them after a particular target using Face ID, targeting a group of people, then that could be horrific. I mean, giving robots that level of power could be disastrous. But then again, is it Terminator, or is it really a far-fetched from what we've got at the moment, where you'd send in a robot to defuse a bomb, and then you could have a bomb on that to then, take out a target. Varun, what's your take on San Francisco approving human-killing robots?
RoboCop, as it were.
Yeah,
I think. And I think it's funny because I think people probably look at the image of this humanoid robot with holding these machine guns, and immediately get scared, which I think is probably warranted, because it sort of seems like something out of a film. But the truth is that I think police forces and intelligence services have been using forms of robots to fight crime for many, many years. Obviously, they don't look like these humanoid robots with guns, but they've obviously been using very sophisticated AI systems to control, cybersecurity, terrorist threats that come through viruses, and things like that. So to a high level, I think authorities have already been using various AIs to combat and fight crime. Whether I don't know enough. I mean, as Sunil said, I think it's one of those things for this particular example, we'd have to sort of look at what it can control and can't control, and things like that. Doesn't surprise me that in the US they're very eager to put guns in the hands of robots and things. But again, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But I think cancelling it or suspending it for now is definitely a smart move until you have a bit more understanding. Because at the moment, in the US particularly, they can't even control cops, like actual humans who have guns. So how would they control robots?
Absolutely.
A bit of a political debate, I suppose, but it's a debate they're having over there nonetheless.
I mean, the crime in San Fran is out of control. We had the sad news that the founder of Cash App was stabbed to death. I think it was last night. I mean, you can see why they're trialing something like this in a place like that, which is unfortunately really, really gone downhill from that perspective. What's your take, Soumya, on the story?
I think big organizations and corporate companies and police departments, they must be using the artificial intelligence and robots since decade,
of course,
of different variations. But I think this is to the next level. I think the moment you distance a human from the situation where they can take a call, whether yes we should really detonate or we should really move out, then it makes it harder, because although you are controlling remotely, it's. Do you have any manuals, and what do you know what is the line to draw when you have to really switch on the button or not? Do you have any reasonable excuses? I mean, if there is any genuine person, or if genuine things was blasted, how can we really justify those things? And it's pretty scary, very scary. To be honest, I think it's the right thing, as Varun said. It's the right thing that they actually stopped the smart move. Because you need to have a clear, specific procedures or controls in place in order to have these things to an extent, I guess. With obviously with nothing in the hand, and police do follow some procedures, and which is not written. So, and also machines can be hacked.
Of course.
So
or
anything can go wrong and catastrophic. Exactly.
It could be a glitch, could not be tested properly enough. I mean, it's not just, there's this human error with a man with a gun. There's also human error with a robot with a gun, but potentially bigger implications.
Absolutely. And here you're not in control of that situation. You're sitting elsewhere, you're working remotely, and I think you can completely misjudge the situation there.
Yeah.
So it's catastrophic.
Yeah, it could be, right.
If you look at how long it's taken, like self-driving cars to to get on the road.
Yes.
I mean, I think it's been over 10 years since they've been testing them, and billions and billions of investment have gone into it, and they still haven't really deemed them safe.
It's just been approved. So Zoox has just received approval in California for self-driving cars, which are amazing. We did an episode about them a couple of episodes back, but you're absolutely right. It took a long time to make that happen. Hey, this podcast is brought to you by WeLoveAlpha.com. If you're looking to grow and hire and scale your software engineering team in the UK, then go to WeLoveAlpha.com to hire the best software developers on the market. Everything across Java to C# to PHP to Python to React and Angular and mobile and more. Go to WeLoveAlpha.com to hire the best software engineers in the UK now. Let's do predictions. So do we think this will become mainstream and we will have robot police walking down the streets in the future, like is it iRobot, the Will Smith movie? Hopefully he doesn't slap me if I get that wrong. But are we going to see this happening, or are we going to see people not going for this, and we maybe police are one of the only jobs that aren't replaced by robots? Yes or no predictions, guesstimates. Soumya, what do you think?
I think with the world that's going in now, with the pace that's going in, I think it is possible, quite possible. But we don't know when, how soon. But again, they are not, they don't have any feelings, so I'm really worried if that is the condition. Yeah. Because they can't really judge. I don't know whether they can judge the situation better or not.
No feelings yet, but when GPT-7 comes out and it's sentient, then that's, maybe it'll have empathy then.
We don't know is the answer.
No, we don't. I'm speculating, obviously. Varun, are we seeing robot police forces going down the street, knocking on people's doors?
I remember when my parents used to, when I was young, and we used to rent out RoboCop from the video store.
Okay.
And it seemed like it was so far away. I think it's still very far away, to be honest.
Sure.
I can't see it happening. Or if it does happen, the UK won't be the first country where this sort of thing gets rolled out.
I doubt it.
So I guess we sort of have to sit and wait, and see what happens.
Okay. What do you think, Aaron?
I think it's quite possible. I think if we look at ChatGPT, for example, right, it's taken off like crazy.
Yep.
I can definitely see something in some form, happening. Especially if it's protecting human beings from being in the firing line.
Sure.
Right. If you're putting robots in the firing line, if a robot gets shot, I don't think people will care as much, right?
Yeah.
We'll see what happens, but I think it's quite possible.
It's an interesting point. This could have a use case in military, in warfare, and save human lives. I mean, we are looking at this from a realistic but also a pessimistic point of view. What about the upside? What if the tech's perfect, which never is the case, but let's say it was? Could that then save police officers' lives? Could that make more calculated, better decisions on whether to take somebody down or not? Who knows? But we'll have to wait and see. But interesting clip regardless. Next clip, very much still on the area of AI. This is very much an AI themed episode actually. But somebody sent me this on Twitter. If you enjoy the show and would like to send me clips on Twitter, then my handle is on the screen at the moment. This is Replit.com. The Amjad Masad, the genius founder of the company there, has created something which gets me nervous as the owner of a software engineering recruitment agency, because it's AI which could replace software engineers. Let me show the clip to you. This is essentially talking to the phone using voice, asking it to create an application. So make me an app that lets me record my workout and publish them. And then boom, code is written, app is published. And then the app has been made in seconds using voice. And it works. They test it out. They type in what they want to do, what exercise. They click submit, and boom, it publishes the app. That's Replit.com. Interesting, right? I know that's a basic app, but we can all see where that potentially could lead to. What are your thoughts on this? We'll start with yourself, Soumya. You are a director of a large software engineering team. You've been in that industry for decades. What's your view when you see somebody creating an app by speaking into a phone for 20 seconds?
I think it's a great progress. It's incredible to see how and where AI has come. I mean, GPT-4, I mean, can do a lot of things by taking text. It can write poems, it can write code, it can do all sort of things. I think in whatever industry, people have been really kind of doing mundane things and then maybe doing not very creative things. Maybe they can get exposed to the automation, complete automation. In this case, software engineers, I don't think it will be a complete extension, but there will definitely be an element or maybe greater element to automation.
Sure.
And then it will increase the efficiency.
Yes.
And the quality.
Yeah.
And the security of it, which is a positive side. But that goes without saying, and it's for across the industry, where automation is the way to go, and it's getting automated everywhere. And software engineers are taking help from technology, and they are using and they are automating themselves to make the process faster and quicker. In that, if it exposes the software engineers to automation and then replacing some of them, I think it is quite possible.
Yeah,
Definitely possible.
I think you're probably right that maybe the bad ones will be replaced and the good 10x engineers will become 100x engineers, by using it not as a replacement but as a co-pilot to really allow them to scale and do a lot more with less time. What's your take, Varun, on that clip when you see that? What's your reaction?
It's funny that particular example involved a workout app, which is
your world, man.
Sort of what we do. But in a way, it's actually interesting to see because obviously we actually see our human developers in our office, developing something not obviously much more sophisticated than that, but in a similar style. And I think ultimately what we do as a company and what I guess the makers of that particular video app, the app in that video that you showed, ultimately they're trying to build something that's valuable to an end user, and in this case, hopefully help them with their health and fitness. So building an app really is just the means to an end. It shouldn't, if there is a way to bring that experience, bring that utility to people in a much easier, faster, cheaper way, then the market should default to whatever that thing is.
Sure.
And as just discussed, I think there are lots of dangers with AI, but similarly there's lots of benefits to it as well. And I think this is one of them, which advances discovery, advances education, and anything which enables us to automate perhaps simpler rote tasks which are probably not worth the human spending time on.
Sure. Yeah.
It ultimately is better because it frees their time to focus on higher, more creative endeavors and things which are, I think, as you said, 100x as opposed to the 1x.
Yeah.
So it's actually great to see, and I actually hope our developers in our own company, utilize these types of things to make their own work quicker.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they will be phased out, in all honesty. But if it can make their work quicker, so it frees them up to do the 100x tasks, then that's ultimately a benefit for us as a company.
Yes.
And I think it's a benefit to consumers as well, because they get technology much quicker and cheaper, perhaps.
Okay. I mean, that was basic HTML, CSS, JS, but you guys are like Flutter, right? What do you work with?
Yeah, Flutter.
Yeah, okay. I mean, it's a little bit more complex, but we can see where this is going, right? This app was pretty simple, but do you see this possibly improving, when we get like really complex SaaS applications, social networking sites, if you can talk to it and create that in 5 years from now, will you be able to talk to it and create Netflix or create something even more complex? What do you think that's a possibility, Sunil?
Yeah, 100%, definitely a possibility. Technology is always improving, always advancing. The example you just showed us, right? I think, let's say a year ago, I would have been quite surprised to have seen something like this happen.
Yeah.
And look where we are now, and if we go back maybe 3-4 years, we look at, or even further back, we look at sort of WordPress and Squarespace, and there's a new one that came out as well a few years ago. I remember the name, but that's replaced, the need for software developers in some capacity.
Yeah.
But as we said, new sort of innovation creates new opportunities. So, it makes the developers who were previously building those sort of simple websites for their customers focus more on sort of more complex tasks.
Yeah.
So it makes them sort of skill up, I suppose, and become 100x, like you said, as opposed to 10x.
Yes.
So to answer your question, yeah, 100%, I can definitely see that happening.
Hey, quick announcement just to give you a free copy of my new UK market data report. My team has done a ton of work with this, speaking with thousands of UK tech professionals to gather these critical insights. Check out this report to learn which new coding languages are in demand, which new frameworks are growing quickly, and so much more. This report won't be available for much longer, so grab your copy whilst it's still available. Just scan the QR code on the screen right now to get your free PDF copy, or go to welovealpha.com/market data to access your PDF now. Okay, cool. Last clip I wanted to show you is some groundbreaking news really in the world of AI. Elon Musk, Steve Wozniak, thousands of others have called for a 6-month pause on giant AI experiments. The Future of Life Institute notes that AI labs are in an out of control race to develop machine learning systems that nobody, not even the creators, can understand, predict or control. Elon Musk believes AI is a greater threat to humanity than nuclear weapons. Steve Wozniak is jumping in there and asking for governments, for world leaders to be involved. Italy has now suspended the use of ChatGPT. We are seeing an interesting debate happening where if the West doesn't continue development, what does that mean for Russia and China, who continue to keep building? What are your thoughts on this? Do you think this is realistically going to happen? Is it just them trying to be on the right side of history? Soumya, what's your take on that story?
I think it's fantastic what GPT-4 can do and how AI is progressing. But at the same time, it's so scary because nobody knows exactly where we're heading.
Yeah.
And it's the main point is it's not regulated. We don't know what is really real and what can be fake, and which can lead to propagandas. And these are the people who have signed this open letter at the forefront in the technology that we're talking now. And if they are concerned, then it is all valid, and it definitely calls for a pause, which we don't know whether will happen, because it's very hard to pause. It's not a literal pause, maybe to take a step back and then put great minds like the scientists and AI labs and independent smart people to come together and then introduce the governance and then standard protocols and rules and ensure that it is more regulated and it is validated really for all its design and development.
Yeah.
It's very hard to predict because whoever is created, they don't know exactly what it can really do.
Yeah.
Because it's not that it is so smart as yet, but it is uncontrollable. They don't know what is the next response because it is mimicking all the information that is given, that is trained. So, yeah, it's a bit scary, and I think it is the right thing. But it's very hard because 40,000 other people who are already on the race. How can you really make them stop?
You can't.
You can't.
I think it's just gesturing. But I mean, you're right. What happens when the AI starts creating AI, which creates AI? It's completely out of control. We can't stop it, even if we want to. I think you tweeted or LinkedIn posted about this story, but Varun, what's your take on it?
Yeah, when I first saw it, I thought it might be just Elon Musk very bitter that he left OpenAI long before all of this stuff took off.
Sure.
So that was my initial thought when I saw the sort of because I think they were putting together an open letter and perhaps a petition. Yeah. So the government had put a moratorium into place to pause. So it's an interesting one. I think the key thing to recognize in this instance is that OpenAI, who've developed GPT-4, which is the most sophisticated version of GPT, they are really very far ahead of anyone else in development. So all of the power and control of these developments are really just concentrated into the hands of essentially just a few people. They're ahead of Google and Meta. They're ahead of the Chinese government and anyone else. So I think the idea that some rogue terrorist group are going to sort of develop some form of GPT-4 that rivals it, and therefore is able to create something that's potentially disastrous, it's highly unlikely that's going to happen, because the power is very much just concentrated amongst a few individuals. All of the infrastructure is there, but there is some validity in that. There are, because it's developed so fast, there are obviously some unknowns. I'm trying to think of other examples that I've seen in my lifetime. The only one that springs to mind, I know it's a bit bizarre, is probably the development of the Concorde, the plane, where it came out so quickly, and it was so radically better than anything else out there. I mean, I think you could get from London to New York in 3 hours or something like that. Sure. And what happened was it was far too... there were a number of dangers that came with the Concorde. It was incredibly expensive, and it wasn't, I think, proven in terms of some of its safety features or whatever. And in the end, it actually got discontinued, and we're actually worse off even to this day because of it. So I think, I mean, obviously it's a bit of a bizarre example, but I think there's clearly examples of innovation which perhaps comes out way too quickly. Before we've had a chance to pause and think about what the repercussions and implications on safety could be for people. So I think it's going to be exciting to see what happens, but also I think we should tread a little bit carefully as well.
You were for the pause, Soumya, in theory. I don't know if it will actually, if it's realistic, but would you be for or against it, Varun?
It's a tough one. I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't know. I was reading about how the CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, you would think someone like that would have already considered all of these things, but actually he's told all of his staff to literally race to throw GPT-4 out there as fast as possible to consumers. So
and that wasn't a very smart move, because they well, yes and no. I mean, they just to give context, I suppose, on OpenAI, because we've got into the thick of it a little bit there. It was started by Elon, by a bunch of other super smart people in the world, and they all put in money to create a foundation, a research lab to develop OpenAI, keyword being open there. Elon left, as reported, allegedly over a dispute around it continuing to remain a non-profit. That's no longer when they raised 10 billion, and it's a different world. So he's left, and he's going to be starting probably a competitor. He's from my recruitment side. I've seen many developers starting to be approached about working for an alternative AI company in the Valley. So it looks like he's starting to basically almost go again on the project, but like you say, from definitely from behind the 8 ball. They've got a head start. But so many companies have tried to rush it out. Like Google tried to release Bard, that failed and wiped billions off the stock price when there was a mistake made on the accuracy of the information on an advert. But it's crazy what small teams can do. Like Midjourney is 11 developers, and that's just as good, if not better, than DALL-E in my opinion. So I mean, it's crazy to see where it's heading. What's your take, Varun, on the pausing? Are you for or against that? Or you can say I'm not sure, like Varun. That's fine, but I'm probably not sure myself. But what's your take?
I'd say with most new creations, there's always unintended consequences, right? So Varun gave the example of Concorde. Classic example is Facebook and Instagram, right? So social media itself has contributed a lot to anxiety and depression.
Yes.
And I'm sure, Mark Zuckerberg, when he was building this with his team, it's not something they expected to happen, but it has.
Yes.
And you think of ChatGPT, it touches so many areas of our lives, right? Potentially everything.
Yeah.
And it's been, I wouldn't say it's been developed quickly. Like, I know it's been quite a process to come to where we are now, but because it touches so many areas of our lives, I think we need to be very sort of conscious about, what we're doing. And I do agree. I saw this article a few days ago, I think probably because Varun posted it. And I completely agree. We should be, I don't know if pausing is the right answer, but at least being more conscious about, what we're doing and really thinking it through.
Yeah.
So, we'll see what happens. But that's what I think.
Does AI, if you had to lean in a direction, does it excite you or does it scare you? Soumya, are you optimistic that this will transform the world and it will be like, we're in a utopia, or will it develop sentience and doesn't need us anymore? Are you exciting or terrified? Which way do you lean?
I'm excited. I'm very excited to see what it can do, because it can crunch numbers, it can give you complete insight, and it can help in education.
Yes.
It can help in medicine. There's a lot of areas, like investments, if you want an advisor. I mean, we don't have to really sit through those pages and pages of documents, and then you, on top of that, you don't understand.
Yeah.
So we need a simple summarized document. I think these things will be very helpful. I'm very excited on that. But I'm not sure whether they can grow into that sentimental and sential.
Well, you said the pause might be a good idea. So clearly you have some concerns, right?
Absolutely, because currently it's not regulated.
Yeah.
And we can't really say whether that content is authentic.
Yeah.
Who actually, if somebody is not interested in the quality of the information, and if it goes on to the corporate social media, then it can create chaos in the system, and it can create propagandas. We have seen the photos of Donald Trump being arrested.
Oh yes.
And Pope with the jacket. We don't. I mean, if people don't really look for the authenticity of the content, then it's easy to believe and then pursue others.
My wife believed it. She showed me a picture on Twitter of Trump in handcuffs on the floor of New York, and just look what just happened. And I said, that's bullshit. That's Mid-Journey. There's no way that happened. But she believed that. Now, if she does super gullible, maybe. But
that's where. See, that's how in the next few months, how can you be sure what is true and what is fake? It's very hard to differentiate.
Elon's ticks. Maybe he was onto something. Maybe you can only trust verified. But then we've seen problems with that with pages which aren't the actual page getting verified as well. So we can't trust what we see anymore. I think we're going to have deep fakes of Biden declaring nuclear war in a couple of weeks. I mean, and who knows if that's going to be what happens when his Twitter gets hacked and that gets posted. What happens then? It's terrifying, right? So it excites you for the most part, but you're nervous at the same time because of everything we've discussed. So Neil, does AI excite you, terrify you? Which direction do you lean in?
I think as an entrepreneur, you're always very sort of interested in innovations and progress, right? So I would very much say that it interests me, but at the same time, like we were talking about before, it's important to be cautious.
Yeah.
And just make sure that the sort of potential negative consequences aren't, there's always likely going to be negative consequences to most of the things that we build.
Yeah.
We've always got to consider that and take that into account. So it's about finding that sort of balancing act, I suppose, and making sure you're progressing at the right sort of rate and not moving too fast where you kind of ignore the potential negative implications.
The move fast and break things motto doesn't really apply in AI, because when you say breaking things, you're talking about destroying countries, economies, and everything in between. Varun, excitement, terrified, fear, what direction do you lead in?
Yeah, I can certainly empathize with the concerns, particularly when you see world leaders in very compromising situations and saying things which would cause mass hysteria and panic.
Yeah.
Having said that, I saw the pictures of the Pope in the sort of white jacket, which I thought was quite funny, and actually I thought that was actually very realistic. I thought that was real. But following, from that, obviously those are sort of the negative repercussions of AI, generative AI tools like Midjourney.
Yeah.
But I was reading about a number of companies that have taken that exact same technology and they're developing it for things like, so I know Levi's and Calvin Klein are working with a generative AI company that basically takes their clothes,
The models.
and will develop like 30 models in different sizes, different skin tones, different ages.
Yeah.
And they're able to do that, obviously, far quicker and cheaper than the companies would if they had to hire 30 separate models and do all the makeup and studio shoots and blah, blah, blah. So there's a very interesting inclusivity angle where AI can also reduce bias, it can reduce prejudice. And so it's sort of a two sides to the coin, I suppose. If we did regulate, generative AI, then tools like that may not come to the surface very quickly. And obviously tools like that are incredibly beneficial. So it's as I said, it's two sides to the coin, really. You kind of want to regulate it to weed out the bad stuff, but make sure the good stuff can still rise to the surface.
Sure.
So I think it's an interesting debate.
What you're referring to there, we discussed in the last podcast, which is lalaland.ai, which is a modeling studio, which Levi, I want to say Levi Roots, but it's Levi Strauss, right? The trousers and clothing company. They have replaced models with AI generated images, and their rationale for doing this is ED&I. You can select your race, your gender, your body size, your hair color, and then see what you would look like in the images. They're saying it's better for ED&I. I don't buy it because you're replacing the minority models using tech, so it's not benefiting ED&I. It's replacing them with a compilation of images across the web. And then that raises an interesting point. Those images might be me or you that have been merged together to create a fake person. Would you sign up for being a model without knowing about it and without not being paid? If your eyes are then stitched onto that body and you have no idea that's you, that's an interesting debate, right? Be crazy to see where all that goes. Okay, cool. Thank you all for coming in. That flew by, that episode. But that was really good to get your perspectives into what's happening in the world of tech trends and digital news. Thanks all for sharing your points of view, and thank you to everybody for watching as well. Hey, thanks for watching this podcast. Make sure that you like, subscribe, follow, comment, etc., etc., and I'll see you in the next episode.